Okay, a friendly reminder, the whole AMA session is going to be recorded. Welcome, and bonjour, everyone, to the first ever Edgeware R&D project AMA. So
Amazing.
today we have project partner James Payne and director Jamie Jessett representing FTTF, also known as Four to the Floor, as the creative network, along with new features as the media platform and unique people as the contributors. So on the behalf of the whole community, welcome again, James and Jamie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shankar. And hey, everyone. Thank you. Appreciate you guys joining and listening to this. Listen to us tell you a little bit more about this project, and then hopefully being able to answer or discuss any thoughts or questions you guys have. I guess I initially just wanted to sort of introduce ourselves a little bit. Myself and Jamie have been, I guess, in and out of involvement with the community for about 12 months now, and are currently in the midst of creating the community film as well. This is a project that is very close to me. I'll explain a little bit about how it came to be, and I'll start off by telling you a little bit about Four to the Floor. So FTTF is it started off as an idea between myself and Jamie. We both worked in the music industry. We both worked in television and production. We've worked across many different projects for people like the BBC, MTV, and lots of different broadcasters. We decided to basically do things ourselves. We set up a company called Lemonade Money about 10 years ago, and Four to the Floor was born out of our desire to create programming that we actually wanted to watch. Both of us were working on projects that were great and fun, but weren't really the direction we wanted to be heading in. And Four to the Floor was an opportunity for us to use music, live music, as a way of entering into stories that tell us about the world, tell us about who we are, particularly here in the UK and particularly in London, which is at the heart of sort of very multicultural and fast-moving sort of city. So Four to the Floor started off as an idea, eventually became a television show, which ran for about 6 years on Channel 4, which is one of the big broadcasters in the UK. We won quite a lot of awards for it. It was a very different. There's a reel in the whiteboard if you guys want to check it out. We again championed a lot of young musicians who have now gone on to do sort of great things. We always shot everything with a real sense of imagination and fun and poignancy. We were able to sort of represent what we felt wasn't being represented in the mainstream. Ideas and themes that we felt weren't being looked at. That ran for years. We've Four to the Floor became more of a creative studio. We're a collective of people who sort of share similar ideals and want to create content in a specific way, celebrating who we are and celebrating that sort of energy of that youth brings.
And on that, James, I mean, it's something we've spoken about before. I think going back a little bit further is that a lot of this in our formative years came out where, we were lucky enough to grow up in a golden age of public service broadcasting here in the UK. I mean, as a teenager, this is pre-internet, right? So this is how we kind of found out about the world and the possibilities of opportunities for us. There was like late night, satirical, subversive stand-up comedy shows. There was a show called The Rough Guide, which is the travel guide. I think it's kind of been superseded by the Lonely Planet now. But there was this group of like cool young 20-somethings that would go to like Thailand and India and Australia and South America, and they'd go to these festivals and show you what was possible. And it's just like, oh my God, I have to go and do that as soon as I'm old enough, And then, as James said before, like the whole kind of music culture in London specifically, but the UK being such an asset, it was around the time that rave culture started kicking off, and we had like Thatcher. These were the Thatcher Reagan years, and there was a real kind of war against industry and
creative expression as well.
Creative expression, yeah, exactly. And then people started getting together under the guise of partying together, with loud music and chemical compounds called MDMA. But without knowing it, they were actually performing quite a political act. And I think it's this kind of spirit that has informed what we do creatively. And I think from those formative years, that's what we've kind of taken on.
Absolutely, and that's the sort of spirit that we've created with ever since, and particularly under Four to the Floor. And I guess where it's led to us, where we started off really focusing quite sort of forensically on music, it became much more about us telling people's stories and connecting stories from artists all around the world as well. As Jamie said, that was something that was, very, very clear to us, that there was this sort of spirit that sort of transcended borders and nationalities, and that's very much what I hope we managed to capture. We also we were very, very early into lots of different technological innovations in terms of how we film things, in terms of using motion graphics and animation, and really making our work stand out as well. So that's kind of that's a little bit about Four to the Floor and a little bit about our background, because it does inform this entire project. So as I say, as we went on more and more, we began to use music as an entry point to talk about sort of wider topics and subjects, and that could be anything from well-being to community to psychedelics, to all of these things that became apparently interesting to us through music and through our conversations with artists and their expression. And that's really how we came to start looking and understanding and talking about blockchain. Again, sort of looking at how systems can change was something that came through our work with Four to the Floor, because it became apparent that there's a lot of odds stacked against you as a young person. And also that's how we came across this project with the Hooniquin. So this came to being because a friend of mine who was already connected to the tribe, he had spent a lot of time out in Brazil. He'd spent, I think it was almost 2 years, and living with the tribe in the jungle. And I got more and more interested in what he was telling me. I got more and more interested in the way he was talking about them, the way he was talking about their connection to nature, about how they live as a community, but also the sort of, and this is more and more apparent in the last few years, but also the threats and the dangers that they face, whether that's the deforestation, whether that's the threat to their sort of traditions and medicines. And it intrigued me more and more. It coincided with me finding out that their spiritual leader, the head page of their tribe, is a guy called Ninawa, and about 7 or 8 years ago, he began a sequence of events which has led to this, where he decided to leave the forest and come to the west. He had visitors come to the jungle, but he had never actually left and come to the west. He began this project, which I think there's a link in the bio as well, called Eskawata Kaiawe, which in their language is the spirit of transformation. His belief was that there was in the West, and I believe that their term for Westerners, and particularly white people, is the same as their word for toddlers, in that he could see them smashing up the forests, polluting the rivers, all these things, and I don't know if it was in desperation or in fortitude, decided to come out and see how those people could help bring a message about what they're doing, but also to help to try and maybe with the tools they have, to help to try and see whether there was an impact that could be made on Western people who, and as far as they can see, have lost this connection to nature, have lost this understanding about what we're losing in terms of our extraction from the earth. As the years have gone by, more and more people have become involved over in particularly in Europe and America, in terms of listening to their message, in terms of hosting events, in terms of hosting ceremony where they partake in the plant medicines that the people in the village use. which do have an incredible healing property as well, which is something I'll discuss additionally. And yeah, this opportunity came up a few weeks ago where there's a party of 3 of the younger Pages coming from the Amazon. They're coming to London, and they're coming here to do ceremonial work, but also to share their message. And that was why, for me, obviously, having listened and been part of this community and listened to lots of talk around the idea of community and what it means, it felt like an opportunity to make some connections that wouldn't normally be made, and B, for us to understand and maybe have a little different understanding of what community is. That was my initial feeling. As I say, what I also wanted to do was to also, as well, just to add in, there's some links on the whiteboard of there's a film which explains the Hunniquin journey as a people. They benefited from the mass movement in the 80s, where indigenous lands were protected again. They'd suffered an amazing amount of trauma, essentially enslaved on rubber plantations up until really, really recent history. Luckily, enough of their older people who had survived, who remembered their traditions, and when that movement happened in the 80s, they made a decision as a people to go back to living in their traditional way, in harmony with nature, and moving back into the depths of the forest. So yeah, as I say, the guys coming over to the UK, I believe one of them has travelled before, but I think the other 2, I'm not sure either of them have, well, certainly one of them's never actually left the forest. So an incredible experience to hear from them and hear how they see the Western world for the first time. So yeah, as I say, there's links if anybody's interest is piqued. There's a short, I think it's like 25-minute documentary, which is worth a watch if you're interested. As I say, the reason they've come here is to really to sort of share their story. As I say, I mean, we talked at the top. Me and Jamie are very, very much believers in the power of storytelling and making those connections. And they've come to sort of tell their story, to share their music, and also to build alliances. And that's the key of this proposal, is that very thing is about building alliances. I wanted to do that both in if you like in the physical realm, with connecting them with some of the I don't really like to use the word, but disadvantaged communities in South London who don't normally get the opportunity to make those kind of connections. Again, tends to be when they come to the West, they're normally linked very closely with maybe more white middle class communities, which is great and nothing wrong with that. But we wanted to broaden their alliances, and also with this community, with the Edgeware community, because you know they are on the front line of some pretty serious changes that are happening on the planet right now. And you know it's been something that's excited both myself and Jamie in terms of what is the potential for the Edgeware ecosystem to be able to interact and either to learn from and to also help with their predicaments.
Yeah, and on that, James, I think you're quite right to talk about the kind of Edgeware DAO ecosystem and the parallels with that, and the Hunniquin and what they kind of see in the natural world, because obviously nothing exists in isolation, right? You need biodiversity, and I think in a DAO like Edgeware, you need diversity of people, you need diversity of thought, you need diversity of skills, whether it's devs or creatives or people running sort of particular channels or exploring new ways of governance. And I think that by opening up these conversations, it can help Edgeware inform where we want to go with things. Like I know we're doing the decoding law talks at the moment, and you know, how could this potentially plug into the morals that we decide that we have together that we want to use to potentially form some kind of frameworks?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so our proposal sort of focused around an event, which I mean is happening next Wednesday. So we're going to update our proposal post this conversation, because obviously it's going to be too fine a margin to get everything ready for Wednesday. So we're going to do this event anyway. But the idea was that we wanted to have the guys come in. They're going to perform some music and prayers that they bring from the forest. then they're going to be in conversation with a local South London community leader who's a big presence in sort of youth communities. He runs a space called the Brixton Street Gym. He conceived and runs that space, which has done incredible work in an area where there's not a lot going on for young people. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the UK, but there's been a massive scaling down of investment in young people, youth centres, communities, and there's a lot of problems, a lot of, but again, trauma, and particularly in the areas we're talking about, where there's a lot of violence, a lot of crime, a lot of madness. And Brixton Street Gym's been a beacon of light in all that, not just as a physical outlet, but also as an emotional support as well. So again, being able to link these sort of disparate communities together is something that excites us. The idea was to create this event. Obviously, it's a fundraiser for them. That's the other point of them coming to the West, is that this is how they support their work in the forest, whether that's for them sort of building their community. The forest is a tough place to live, but also for them protecting the forest as well. And that means, being on the front line against illegal farming, illegal mining, which is a dangerous task. Most of their lands were protected, but with the current situation in Brazil, that doesn't count for a lot, unfortunately. So yeah, as I say, this was an opportunity to listen to some of their music and art, which is pretty amazing of itself, but also to hear a conversation, as I say, with a South London community leader, and for us to listen to what community means to different groups, and for a chance and what we wanted to do was to live stream it, for that to be available to Edge Pass holders, for them to be able to contribute, to ask questions, to be part of that conversation. And then the other part of the proposal was for us to design and build. One of the big things they do as well is they create some incredible artwork and incredible jewelry, which they bring in again, which helps to fund their projects. What we wanted to do was move that into a digital space, to be able to create, using the Remark palette, to be able to create NFTs and to create different layers of meaning to NFTs as well. So incorporating their artwork, incorporating their music, incorporating their prayers, and how we can create these objects of value which are beyond just an image. Those are sort of the initial parts, and obviously that NFT being used to raise money for them as well. But one of the other big issues that we wanted to look at, and this is a sort of longer term vision, was that was to be able to look at methods of them to being able to sustainably fund. At the moment, they've had a devastating floods in the forest. They've now got to rebuild their community hall, their media centre, which is again one of the reasons why they've come out of the forest at this moment, is to raise money for these things. And traditionally what they've had to do is continually set up like GoFundMes, and for us it was like, okay, well, how can we look at potentially there being some sort of sustainable funding that we can investigate. And also the other big thing, and this is largely inspired by Ramsey's talks with Franco Collins as well, is like, how can we looking at different sort of ways that they can be protected legally, or that we can try and change the way that their land is protected. And again, I don't have the answers to what that is currently, but this is part of the research and development and part of the investigation that we'd like to sort of support and bring and make a connection with the Edgeware community. So yeah, that's sorry if it's been a bit of a ramble, but that's the project, and yeah, I guess over to the floor if anyone's got any questions.
Thanks, James and Jamie, for the dazzling introduction and heart-touching story. Many of the well-known crypto ecosystems are basically hunting for carbon credits without contributing anything meaningful, just to market themselves as carbon neutral chains. Although, like, funding this project might not give Edgeware the same status, but this aligns with our vision of doing things differently in unconventional manner, making true paradigm shift in existing centralized standards.
Yeah, exactly, Shankar. It's not just optics, it's like real world stuff. And I think with any kind of thing like this, I think sometimes there are proposals and people don't necessarily see the fruits of them for quite some time, because that's just the nature of building stuff, right? But where we have events like this and communities like this that we can engage with, I think we can see the fruits of the labour pretty quickly, because there's a time that it's happening and there's a time that we can kind of produce the content, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, Shankar, that it for us, this is, you know, this is important work, and work that, you know, again, we want to do, funded or not funded, but it feels like something that aligns with many of the values that we've discussed, you know, over the last 12 months within Edgeware. And it's not, we're not doing this as a badge, you know, as a badge to say, look how good we are. This is something that's like, okay, well, how can we make some genuine change? Can we create these alliances that we're talking about? And again, this is, for me personally, I feel this is how change happens, with these really small ripples. And yeah, that's what excites me about this project.
Amazing, impressive and astonishing at the same time. Okay, to clarify the way for AMA participation, the AMA is now open for anyone to ask questions directly to James and Jamie. So I'm sending everyone an invite to join the stage one by one. Give me a second. Okay, so everyone must have received the invite to join the stage, so you can ask questions directly. And if you can't ask questions by voice, feel free to drop your questions in the whiteboard AMA text channel, and we will go through them one by one. So to start with the AMA, I will start with the question. So James and Jamie, would you like to share the thought process behind the project title, A Prayer from the Forest?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah. So as I said, one of the things that is remarkable about this tribe is their connection to nature, and their, I guess, their understanding, or their particular understanding of our human place in the whole ecosystem. And all of their music, which they consider prayers, all of their artwork, which they consider prayers, come directly from the forest. And again, what's incredible about this is that's on a level of their sort of inspiration. So again, when you ask them where these songs come from, where these artworks come from, they say, oh, the plants give them to us. And that's the level of connection they have. So the prayer from the forest was very much based on things that they've said to us in the past. And that's true of I mean, there's stories of researchers who've gone and stayed with them, and obviously been astounded by how I mean, you're talking hundreds of thousands of plants in the Amazon that they know, and they know exactly what each plant does, and exactly they know the difference between 30,000 different types of vine. And when asked how they know this, they give the same question. They say the plants tell them, and which sounds kind of mad to our sort of Western brains, but to them that's as simple as saying they've gone and had a look on Google. So yeah, so that's part of what I wanted to. That's what they bring, and one of the ideas we had with the NFTs was to potentially create NFTs which contained some of these prayers from the forest, which again are either items of value that can be kept or treasured, or items of value that can be shared with people as well. Where when someone's suffering and needs, you know, in the same way that we'd buy someone a bunch of flowers, or the same way that we'd, you know, I don't know, come around and put an arm around someone, that these prayers can be either retained or passed on as an act of kindness. So yeah, the prayer from the forest, that's where it came from.
Sounds miraculous. But I remember Dr. Jagdish Chandra Bose, I guess, post a thesis on plants having feelings, and it was like scientifically accepted.
Yeah.
Maybe we
Yeah, I mean,
will see a future amalgamation of science and nature.
I think so. I
Yeah,
personally, I
hopefully.
believe. Yeah, I believe so. I think, and it's yeah, it's just that it's, as I say, there's something I intuitively feel that there's a lot of knowledge that needs to come, and a lot of remembering that we need to do, which Indigenous people are all around the world, but especially in, well, I've not met everyone, but in these guys from the Amazon, they're so close to it, and there's so much wisdom that we need to incorporate into our being here in the West if we're not going to absolutely trash the entire planet.
And did you say as well,
And
James, that
ourselves.
they have the first female Page as well?
Yeah. So I mean, so the one of the female coming over, Biryani, I think she's probably the second or third female Page, which that's their name for the medicine people in their villages. And this is a very new thing for their tribe to have women being able to hold ceremony and to serve their medicines within these ceremonies. And this is a completely new, I guess, a new paradigm for them as well. And there's this very strong female energy and female voices coming through. And yeah, that's a great thing to see, because that female energy is really important.
Mm-hmm. Enchanting. Thanks for the detailed answer. Anyone would like to ask next?
Just want to say hello. Hi, James, and hi, Jamie. Hello.
Hey,
everyone.
Ramsey.
Hey. Just want to say, yeah, of course, I thoroughly resonate with everything you've presented today, and I look forward to coming on next Wednesday. I'll be there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know how many other people are based in the UK, but or if I have friends who are here, like, anyone's welcome. If just hit me up on Discord, and I'll make sure you guys are on the list. So yeah, just let me know if anyone wants to come down. It'd be great as well to come and see. We work out of a space in 10,000 square foot space in South London, which again is something that we want to be able to use as a tool to enable more edgeware production and events and these kind of things. So yeah, come on down if you can.
Amazing. And I love where this is going, like introducing, as you say, Jamie, introducing these diversity of thought, diversity of people from different places, and bringing the wisdom closer to the center at the end of the day. Like, as a Western society, we're very like science focused, science like first. But the problem with science is it's naturally been a reductionist. It's been reductionist over many centuries, and so to the point where it's gotten rid of everything. It's gotten rid of all the qualitative, the phenomenological, experiential, and it's taken it to the physical. And the tribe, the people who are closest to nature, who can actually have a relationship with plants in such a deep level, to the point where they can learn the poetry of the plants, and they see the subjective reality of the plants, and they can make a connection, compassionate connection to the plants. These are the people we want to learn from at the end of the day. Like, we've heard all the science, like we want the science to learn from the wisdom, so that we can develop the science back to including the soul and the spirit into everything living. And it's great that we can talk over the internet and be a part of this, and help sustainably fund it, help support it, help them support us, and build with the idea that it's not just about economics. It's the economics doesn't have to be the top of the list of everything with capital letters. It can be ecology, and the consciousness and the compassion, and a sort of sense, just bringing back, at the end of the day, it's about benevolent consciousness. And like, if we don't have that consciousness in the systems we're designing, then we're always going to be blind. We're always going to have that blindness in wherever we're going, and we're going to lead to the same problems we have in the world today. And as Shankar said, there's a lot of people saying the right things, or like saying those sort of like superficial buzzwords, but the question, and it's easy to fall into those, climate change sort of agenda, but where is the real, where is the real work happening? And it's happening. We can have this platform that, this stuff happens without having to necessarily gain from it directly, first and foremost. So this is really also, I resonate with it thoroughly. This is why I'm here. This is why I want to wake up in the morning and what I want to work on. This is what motivates me, and this is why to talk to people like everyone here about these things, and develop things further like that.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you, Ramsey. And again, like I'm sure it may come across as a bit out there, but as I say, there's so much to be learned. And again, even on a level of how these, the Hunikuin have come to the West to try and help. Like, that's literally why they're here. They could be so angry at the treatment they've received and the devastation of their forest, but rather than that, they've come to help. And as I say, that's on a sort of individual level, a community level, and ultimately a global level. And again, talking about what's happened in these South London communities, there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of PTSD. I mean, some of these spaces are fucking war zones, and what a lot of these medicines do is really, and again, Terrell, who I wanted to be the guy who's hosts the event and talks to the Pages, he's benefited massively from his experience spending time with these people and spending time using their medicines and healed, to be honest. And there's a lot of healing that needs to happen. And I know it sounds like very hippie, but there's a truth within that, and I think that these things are important.
Yeah, and I've put some links to Terrell and the Street Gym into the whiteboard. And I'm always a big believer of like real recognize real. So I think in engaging with projects like this, and just even people being aware that this is the sort of thing that Edgeware's into potentially, then I think you end up attracting people that will resonate for, and we kind of grow our community with more like-minded people, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. I mean, this is part of like the values we want to have embedded in the communities and systems that we are growing and building. And it's like, we're in a digital verse right now, but with grassroots values, and we're able to include people in the physical, in the rainforest, a tribe in the rainforest with their own, we have resonant values with. I think that's part of the development, and that's what we can include in the things that we prioritize and focus on. And as you say, like resonate with Terrell, who's like community leaders, like actual community leaders in communities, as people we can also learn from and cultivate sort of with those values.
Yeah, and also a lot of, again, there's a lot of young creative people in these areas. Again, with what we've done here, and myself and Jamie and Rich in London, and the communities we've created through creative work, and we've always had people from all backgrounds, areas come and work with us. And again, that cultivation of that creativity and that kind of ability for another generation and people who maybe haven't been exposed to the potential of a project like Edgeware. I'm just really excited by, again, sort of seeding that into young people's minds and seeing, again, who knows what might come of it, who knows what proposals might come from and ideas might come from that exposing to well, both to Edgeware and to the Hunikuin people. So yeah, I just wanted to see what happens if you put all these things together.
That really resonates. That's amazing. Yeah, those community, as you say, those creative folk that might not necessarily understand what Edgeware is about yet, but yet it's a tool for them that they could that people like that can leverage, and it's a sort of access. It's a question of access and developing the understanding and education for that. because that's
Yeah.
it's there for them at the end of the day. And you know, living in London myself and talking to people in my area, and they ask me what I'm up to, and it's like, well, I'm doing this thing, and I look at them, I'm like, oh, you'd be really great, as a contributor, and they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but that sounds really amazing. So it's like this is something we can help to create a platform, access, and education where these things can be accessible to communities that don't have to be underserved. They don't have to be underserved anymore. Like, it's just a question of like bridging it's the bridging element.
Yeah, exactly that.
So Zovan asked, just a quick question: will the prayer NFTs be in video or audio format?
I think both was the intention. Yeah, it was to create bespoke pieces of artwork in collaboration with the Hooniquin, and collaborations with our crew of motion graphics designers, and then to have them imbued with the audio as well. And we've been sort of playing around with ideas of whether the audio should be potentially it's encapsulated, and that audio can only be played once. So and then once the audio is played, it affects the look of the NFT. But there will be NFTs that still hold that audio, that have a different look to the ones that have had that audio played, but there's still a value to. Yeah, it's not. Again, this is something that's we want to research and develop, but we've done some sort of initial kind of sketches in Cinema 4D, and using Unreal Engine as well, just to kind of play around with what we could potentially do.
And that's some of those images are on the Commonwealth post as well. And I'd say, like, anyone on this call, if you got any thoughts or any ideas of how any of this might work, or this is an open forum, so just either in Discord or Commonwealth, like drop a comment, and let's collaborate.
Yeah, 100%.
That's it. And also, it's like the great thing about the technology we have available with Remark and these is that we don't have to have a complete idea and then send it, and for it to come off the presses and then send it out. It's more of a growth thing. It's like the cab seeds and what Rich has mentioned a lot in terms of like it is emergent. These ideas can emerge over time and be distilled over time. And so the great thing about what we can do with Remark is, as a creator, you can retain the creative capacity, and even people that own the NFTs, even though other people own the NFTs, you can still edit and edit the collections that they own. So that can develop over time, and those ideas, are a continued process, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and again, and the reason we came to include that idea in this project, it just felt like something that, it just felt something, I don't know, it just felt like something that would work in this space. And as Ramsey said, being able to add to these things and being able to update and there's so much potential.
So does anyone who supports the fundraise, will they receive an NFT, or will they receive the initial kind of collection NFT?
Again, that was to be worked out. To be honest, our intention was with the event to use the day that we've got time with them we were going to make a short film. We're going to take the Pages, the Hooniquin, down to Angeltown in Brixton, which is where the street gym is based, and for them to sort of see Terrell's community in first hand, and spend some time in Brixton. Then the idea was to come back to the venue and to record the prayers and record some of the visuals that we'd like to use for the NFTs, and then obviously to do the event, and then post that for us to work out what we do with the NFTs. But I think the initial idea was that was to do an initial collection to anyone who joined the project, essentially. But that's to be worked out.
And this feeds into the idea of a DORG, or decentralized organization, where it's your people can gain, like, have membership and have certain roles and responsibilities within this decentralized communities that's being developed, because that's something we're kind of working on with Edgeware and Kombucha, is like how to develop the concept of NFTs, how to take it to the next level, essentially. And this is a great experiment to work, continue working on and pilot.
And initially,
and have real world impact as well. That's the thing. It's not just glossy wallpaper. There's potential for real world impact with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry, I just said what I was going to say.
Exactly, yeah, not just glossy wallpaper. Yeah. Lipstick on the sow.
And also as well, we're just learning about what are the potentials that can be done. I mean, obviously we I guess as creators get really excited about any new ways of storytelling and any new ways of displaying and sharing story and artwork, essentially. So for us, it's all completely new, and our background isn't in the technological side of these things. We're probably more dreamers and I guess sort of ideas people. So for us, even, I don't know if that connection with people who are more technically minded, and then being able to sort of, anytime we talk to people, like Ramsey, we get so inspired by the potential of things, and it's really exciting for us as storytellers to have more understanding of the tools that are potentially at our disposal within these ecosystems. So again, like whether it's a creative contribution, whether it's a technical contribution, anything, or even a comment, it's all of these things have value for us.
I would say, James, though, that I think that the fact that you do have technical knowledge and technical capabilities, I think that's just what everyone is starting to realize, that your technical knowledge and capabilities just happens to be in a different domain to, say, Shankar or the developer side of things, because
that's what I meant.
So that's in general, I think everyone, it doesn't matter which part of the community you're in, everyone's telling a story, everyone's trying to kind of communicate, and we just use different languages, like literally like languages, whether it's developer languages or different like sort of spoken word languages, and that's kind of part of the challenge of us all getting together and trying to figure out how to build stuff. The values are the things that are the consistent piece, as Ramsey's already said, but the kind of the way we communicate, we all communicate in different ways, and that can be obviously challenging at times because we use different mediums, we use different languages. So I think that's part of this, is a new group of people, the Hoonikin, who in many ways are so far away from the crypto culture that everyone understands, but in many ways, as James says, like if you really strip it all back, there's an element of community that you can actually find resonance in and find connection in, that really is why we're all here. So I think that's why we want to find the kind of common connections between people.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just saw a comment from Frogman, who said, I believe it's going to be a great event because this is going to be the Edgeware's first real world event. Definitely going to attract more people interested in Edgeware. That's amazing, really, isn't it? It's like Edgeware's first real event, like kind of like that's, and it's with talking to a tribe from the rainforest. Like that's really that's crazy.
Yeah, well, I guess it's certainly different from a lot of other first events for projects.
Yeah, it's a big contrast from the aping into like some NFT thing where there's like artists playing music that no one really interested in, and that sort of insular crypto reality. Like this is branching out at the end of the day, like and
No fake Snoop Dogs at the Hooniquin on Wednesday, basically.
Yeah, we've sold about I mean we've got a 200 capacity, and as I say, we've already sold about 35 tickets, and we probably anticipating about 100 people will turn up on the door. So there'll be a lot of people there.
I have a follow-up question on the H-Pass related perks in terms of those NFTs. So, will you be having multiple criterias, like whether you supported the proposal, whether you hold certain number of EDG, or whether you have engagement in the community? Let's say if you hold ECP tokens and multiple other criterias, and based upon the number of criterias one fulfilled, they will get the NFTs based upon the rarity. So more criteria one fulfill, he or she will get the rarest NFT or something like that.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's part of our journey to explore. I think that was the intention. Yeah, was to have those sort of multi-layered kind of rewards or NFTs.
I think the main question at the moment, practically speaking, the actual this first event is in what, 3 days, James? Next
Wednesday.
It's next Wednesday. Yeah.
Sorry, Rich. Just to say, like as I say, we're going to run ahead with this anyway and do it on a sort of much scaled down effort, because it's obviously going to be very difficult to be a funded project before that time. But there is actually another crew from the forest who are going to be here at the end of August, so it may be more practical to look at that as the potential event. And also that's with this guy called Ninawar, he's the head of the tribe, of the entire tribe, throughout all the villages in the Amazon. So again, it is very, very special to have him involved, and I believe he's coming over with his 2 sons who are also medicine men for the tribe, and neither of them have ever been outside the forest either. So there's a potential to spend some time and pattern this up properly for August.
Yeah, didn't you say as well, James, that Nina was also like one of the kind of 7 kind of main spiritual leaders from around the world? Yeah. One of the others being the Dalai Lama, like just to put it all into context.
Yeah, so they're called the Wisdom Keepers, and there's representatives from indigenous people around the planet, and they were on stage with Sir David Attenborough at Glastonbury Festival a couple of years ago, and yeah, it's a pretty special collection of people.
Just on the practical steps, that I think that's what we want to try and get across, is that this is kind of going to happen. So we're going to be able to give a flavour of this project, introduce this community, and push a few things down the road a bit. So the NFTs can sort of happen, but equally we can have the edge pass, because there's a few technical hurdles to doing that, but I think we figured out how to do it. So, but racing to do it all for next week, it seems to be a little bit unrealistic. So that's why we're sort of gradually evolving this project. So that's why the proposal as it currently stands is a starting point that will just get updated.
Yeah, because I think, as Rich said, I think we do. To be honest, this came about at quite a late date, so hence why we didn't have a lot of time between putting the proposal in and the event happening itself. But I wanted to just get it in and get the idea seeded within the community. And as I say, there is going to be another opportunity to do this in August, and also, without funding, it's going to be a very sort of skeleton version of what we want to do, but we are going to do some filming and we are going to cover the event, so we'll be able to share all that within the group, and we probably still will do the recording in anticipation of building the NFTs. So again, we'll share all this in the group probably in the next couple of weeks.
Is there a way we can what wallet can we use to donate to the event, or donate to the tribe? it's a great way to stake your tokens,
Yeah,
or at least
yeah,
an alternative way.
yeah, absolutely. As I say, at the minute we've just been doing donations coming through ticket and what the guys selling their artwork on the day. But yeah, that is 100% something we need to build into this.
Get the Hoonigan to become community validators.
Yes, exactly. I look forward to you trying to communicate what an NFT is to the head of the rainforest.
I've already started that process, because that, like, I mean, you know, we talk initially. I mean, obviously not so much now. They do have mobile phones now, but yeah, that it's been a process, and I've done a few documents that you know, the guys who, there's a couple of Brazilian guys who obviously act as translators, and I mean they speak Portuguese as well. They obviously as their native language. But yeah, it's been a process to try and explain what an NFT is. We'll see when they come if it's been successful. But
That's a
yeah, I
comedy
mean,
sequence in itself.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely the ultimately I've been explaining it as a chance for them to create art in a digital space, because again, that artistic expression is such an important part of what they do and who they are, and it's an opportunity to do that in you know, in a non-physical space as well, which is the way I've been trying to explain it to them.
Levian commented that he too believe in the community which existed since a long time, and bringing exposure to them in the digital world is a great concept. And Frogman also added, power of community solving real world problems.
Yeah, and it goes both ways. That's what's exciting, you know. There's you know, there's sort of physical and real world benefits potentially for Edgeware community, and there's also, yeah, I guess digital and online benefits for them as well. So hopefully there's a real exchange of ideas, exchange of cultures, and exchange of value as well.
Yeah, and even like from a technical point of view, even with this R&D, we're going to be working out, I guess, how to do certain things like we've spoken about, like how to distribute the NFTs that will kind of help kind of sharpen up the way the network works, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, these kind of events really forces us to create a very simple solutions and you know, user journey for people that are you know, outside of the space that can benefit from it. And yeah, these events are important. These to refine the products, because as yet we still have quite convoluted and complex tools, and that's because we don't really need yet to create things that are really simple. But these events will make us have to build simple things.
Yeah, absolutely. And
it also forces, which is one of the key things for me, is it also, maybe not forces the wrong word, but encourages collaboration between a range of Edgeware contributors and projects. That's what we're starting to see, or what I'm certainly starting to see, is the different connective tissues that may not have been immediately obvious. Even to me, like I didn't see how this was going to relate to New Futures initially, but suddenly you start to go, oh, hang on, they're off doing New Futures, but ultimately this is a way to have a Genesis sort of drop project with them. The creative network stuff, so it's all kind of like we're kind of funding things and then figuring out how to cross collaborate across the funded projects. So that's again another key thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you know, again, the event side of things and the live broadcast side of things is something that we've got real expertise in, but also something that, you know, we're really excited about looking at developing with the Edgeware community. And obviously we've got, from our work, we've got great relationships with lots of exciting and, you know, quite big artists and music artists, and doing these kind of things is really something that, again, we really want to draw awareness, and how and it's been really good watching what Ramsey's been talking about in terms of Kabocha and the potential for sort of music and the way that we can affect and effect the music industry, and these are things that really, we want to do more of.
Yeah, and on that as well, like James was saying, like these artists, they're not just big artists, you know, like they're people that look great on a poster. They're the people we spend time with and are also kind of morally aligned with the way that we want to approach things. And this type of project, that's where the kind of commonality comes in, is that we, you know, it's that classic thing. You put something out into the universe, and people that are into that thing suddenly get drawn towards it, and that's what we have with those artists. So that's it's not just like getting people in that are big names to play. It's like they're people that are actually invested in this kind of thinking.
Absolutely, we already had. It probably means nothing to most of you, but there's an artist called Green Tea Peng who wanted to come and perform after the Hooniquin, which again, potentially when we do this in August, we may well get a music artist from our network in London to play afterwards as well. So there's a we can incorporate that too.
I look forward to the idea of like a festival. Eventually, this becoming a festival, you know, supported by this community, you know, at the end of the day, and bringing together all those different, you know, all the different stakeholders, from the artists to the leaders of tribal leaders, people working in technology, people you know, as part of different communities, and creating and having having festival underpinned by, you know, and by that time Edgeware Pass and Edge Pass, these will be functioning products, and that will just be the infrastructure. It's not something that we, you know, it'll be a no-brainer, you know, and that won't be the important. That's not the important thing. The important thing is the experiences and the connections and the contributions people have and relationships that are built, and not just digitally but in real life as well.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. Anyone got any thoughts or questions? Otherwise, we should wrap this up. We've kept you for an hour, and thank you for your patience and
thank you everyone.
Your time listening.
Looks like we don't have any more question. Even Gagan mentioned that you guys already answered question even before they were asked.
Excellent. Well, look, as we said,
just one thing, guys.
Hey.
So I was kind of, firstly, a great project. Really like. I just read about these cultures and stuff like yesterday, and I was listening to their music, and it is pretty good. Like, I'm one of those guys that listen to music that I don't really get, but it is pretty good. But not a lot of people will take projects like this, right? So other than the factual reasons, how did you guys like mentally or spiritually connect with these people?
Well, I mean, initially, as I say,
Good question.
It is a good question. Initially, the connection came through an interest in hearing stories from other people who had experiences either out in the jungle or sitting in ceremony with these people, and that was the entry point for me, was to sit in ceremony with their medicine people, and to, I guess, experience the music and the music and the prayers and a sense of the community that they use to connect to nature, and I've sat with them a number of times now, and that's been the sort of firming up of my connection, and then through that sort of hearing more and more about their story, more of their stories, and more of their sort of understandings of the natural world, and additionally on top of that, then the sort of the pressures that they face and the struggles that they face, which have really resonated with me, because yes, there's work to do on a local level always first, but also there's an importance, because that forest being destroyed affects every single human on the planet. But yeah, so that was that was how the real connection was made for me, was spending time in ceremony with well, initially Ninawa, who's the guy I mentioned, who's the spiritual leader of the tribe, and then subsequently with a couple of different leaders who've come to the UK.
Yeah, thank you.
And we've been lucky enough to film with them a couple of times now as well. And again, it's always quite a mesmerizing experience, and just incredibly interesting to listen to their. It's a very different way of understanding the world, and as Ramsey sort of alluded to, where there's sort of quite a few brick walls I feel that we've hit in the West, and there's that sort of led to a sort of calcifying and a dogmatic nature to our understanding of things, and we're starting to see that maybe we don't know everything, and maybe that our ways of doing things, whilst we've made miraculous benefits in many areas, there's limits, and that we maybe have to start reconnecting with different ways of understanding how things work, and different ways of understanding who we are and our connections to the earth, and that we can't just trash it. So yeah, these are all things that are new to me. I didn't think like this 10 years ago, but yeah, I've definitely opened my mind to it, and also seeing the impact that you know, again, the saying that they constantly say, that I guess their motto is "So Alegria," which means only joy, and that's an incredible sort of mantra to have for life. And especially, you know, life isn't easy for these guys, but to still, that is the spirit. And all of their medicines, all of their ceremony is done in community, and it's done with young and old, and it's a celebration of life and nature. And again, for me, these are important things for us to connect with in a stressed out, tired, demanding world.
That's amazing, and it leads us to ask the question, like, what kind of community do we want to create? Like, who are the next adopters, and who are the next participants in Edgeware?
Yeah.
How are they going to experience this community? You know, right now our community is quite small, you know, and if it gets bigger, that's fine. Big or small, that's not necessarily the important thing. The important thing is when it does expand, who is it that we want to be part of it, and what kind of conversations do we want to enable? What kind of, how can we be a platform to enable relevant and important discussions and conversations, and bringing again just this being the first event is a great sort of omen, or a great landmark, you know, for Edgeware. It's very different, and it's really in touch with real subtle consciousness, and being able to speak openly and talk about things on a platform like this is really helps to unblock the trajectories of where we can go as humanity, and what kind of future we want to create, what kind of new future we want to create at the end of the day.
Yeah,
and
absolutely,
awesome.
Ramsey. Yeah, because it's you know, again, these aren't conversations that can be had in, you know, we work with brands like Nike and I don't know, whoever, and these aren't conversations we can go and have with those brands necessarily. And ultimately what we are trying to do is create sustainable funding models for the kind of work they're doing in the forest, and that's what's, you know, the open-mindedness of communities like the Edgeware community is something that's new and exciting, and something to be, you know, we can build on with different values and openness. And yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, hey, I just got a quick question. Are you going to stream the event, or is it not available to us from overseas?
Yeah, I mean, as I say, what we it will have a lot less production value than because the event, as I say, is happening on Wednesday, and we understand that it's not going to be a funded event by that time. We're going to sort of have a very stripped back version. But yeah, we'll we'll stream the event, and even if it's as basic as being streamed on Instagram Live or something like that, and we'll share all the details in the groups.
Yeah, and as James said, there's another event coming up in August, and with funding, if Pro Proposal goes through for that one, we'll be able to do like full streaming, and also we'd look at doing kind of replays of the event at different times. So we appreciate it's a global community, so whatever time zone you're in, you might not miss the live. You might miss the live UK one that is actually the live one, but we can do a replay of the stream in the middle of the night UK time, so people around the world can watch it at a time that's good for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if it's on YouTube or whatever, I'd just be interested to watch it. Sounds like a good project, guys. Keep up the good work.
Nice
Thank
one.
you, man.
Whereabouts are you based? I'm assuming Australia.
Yeah, Australia.
Wicked. Yeah, man. Well, look, thanks for coming on the call as well. Like, appreciate you listening.
Yeah, and any further comments or thoughts, just jump on Commonwealth, man, and let us know any ideas or what you're thinking.
I just had one further question. So how does the Edge Pass work with this? So say I'm going to this event, how do I come into the event with my Edge Pass?
That was, to be honest, that was the biggest thing that to be worked out. That's something that, again, we sort of understood that with the sort of restricted time for this event coming Wednesday, potentially with the event happening in August, we've got time to really sort of delve into how we make that work.
Yeah, nice. Like, yeah, that's cool. Thanks.
No worries.
Okay, last call for any questions, thoughts, suggestions. Going once. Twice. Okay.
Shankar, you're getting better at this, aren't you?
Shankar's the master, man.
It's like a game show host.
Become an auction.
Yeah. Okay, let's conclude. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
James and Jamie, for dedicating your time to the Edgeware community, and also thank you to the all community members who tuned in. Bugs, Moonrocket, Kagan, Sovan, Ramsey, Rich, Frogman, Levian, Treadbees, Lona, and James Lee. So,
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Nice one, guys. Really appreciate your time, and thanks for listening. And yeah, I hope we can connect soon.
as a thank you note, all the AMA participants, including our Kesh, will share a pool of 100k ECEP tokens, Edgeware Community Engagement Points. So kindly DM me your AGM addresses to claim those SOPs. This concludes the first ever Edgeware R&D Project AMA. See you everyone in the Law Decoded seminar and usual contributors week planning call coming Monday.
Wicked.
Yes, thank you, Shankar. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.